Virginians are hospitable people. If they like you, they don't want you to leave. So the visit to my sister in Williamsburg, begun in 1712, kept being extended indefinitely. I traveled all over the Old Dominion, studying her birds and plants and flowers. On these trips, I often saw the laurel. Not only did I paint it, but I sent some of the plants back to England. I had a fair knowledge of gardening, and during my visits to Westover, Colonel Bird asked my advice on how to improve his garden. Through his good offices, I soon made the acquaintance of other gentlemen with similar interests. Among them, his brother-in-law, Mr. John Custis of Queen's Creek, who gladly accepted my counsel. My sister Elizabeth was not so easy to please. Morning.
Now what have you?
I was going to ask you that. When I found it in bloom last summer, I marked it for transplanting. It appears to be a rare variety of daisy.
It's just a black-eyed Susan.
I shall send a clump of it back to England. It'll be an exotic there.
Send it all. I don't want it in my garden. I want some more calendulas.
Oh, these are finer than calendulas.
But it's a weed.
A weed, Elizabeth, is only a more self-reliant flower. And what a lovely name they have. Black-eyed Susan.
Susan Martin.
What?
Black-eyed Sue. Now there's a girl the Martins would give a fortune to marry off. And she's a nice girl, too. I think I'll invite her to tea this afternoon.
Oh, not on my account. I have an engagement with a fellow naturalist.
Mr. Custis again? Take the gig. You can be back in time for tea.
Oh, the carriage would frighten the forest creatures.
Mark, only servants walk in Virginia.
Then they have all the best of it. Anyway, I'm not going to Queen's Creek today.
Do try to be back in time for tea.
Yes, dear.
And don't foul your clothes.
No, dear.
What fellow naturalist?
I shall never forget that day. The birds, great and small. Animals undisturbed by our presence. Others all too easily frightened. It was here that we found the flower I would rank next to the laurel and the sweet bay blossom, the Jamestown lily. While sketching, I noticed that we had neighbors. Near the river, we saw another bird that I greatly admired. No one knew its name. I called it the yellow-crowned night heron.
Colonel Bird was very complimentary indeed. He spoke well of the sketches, and then he said, "Are you known in London, Mr. Catesby?" And of course dear Mark said no. Always so modest. And then Colonel Bird said, "Well, sir, you will be." Those were his very words.
Oh, how much you are to be envied, the company of so clever a brother. Thank you for the most enjoyable afternoon, and you will not think me ungrateful if I cannot stay any longer.
Mother, he's coming.
My respects to Mr. Catesby.
I am sure he'll be here any moment. Do have another cup. You may perhaps find my brother a very quiet gentleman, reserved, but then so many true gentlemen are, don't you agree? Nonetheless genuine.
Elizabeth! Look, a water lily.
I felt much more comfortable in the Williamsburg garden of Mr. John Custis. He had left his Queen's Creek plantation after the death of his wife and was living with his children in his house in town.
Well, I have missed you. Have you been off to Jamaica again?
No, sir, I've been visiting John Clayton at New Windsor. I'm sure he knows more about botany than any man in Virginia. And I've never seen a garden better furnished with specimens. But for the beauty of its blossoms, there's none can rival yours. Your tulips are the talk of the town.
Save for my garden and my children, I've nothing to live for. You know, I had 100 roots of fine Dutch tulips from a gardener in Battersea, but the ship was so late that all but 3 of them split themselves. Cost me a pretty penny. And if you send plants in boxes of earth, the ship's captains stow them down in the hold and never water them at all.
Yes, I know the hazards. I sent home frogs and lizards, preserved in jars of spirits. The sailors drank off the rum.
Seeds are the answer, but they take too long. Oh, I want Spanish broom and Guernsey lilies and yellow roses and laburnum.
Now, look what you could give in return. Roots from your fringe tree. The yellowwood. The tulip tree. You should have your counterpart in England. Some gentleman who would be happy to exchange plants with you. And no money involved. I'll do it myself when I return.
I don't want you to go away. I want you to stay right here. You think the red buckeye would grow in England?
I'm sure it would. But never the birds to go with it. Elizabeth always had a reason to keep me here. While Dr. Koch was in England on public business as secretary of the colony, I was needed to look after his private interests. I tried to be useful in the harvesting of tobacco, but found myself a novice compared to those worms and insects who were masters of the craft. Spring turned to summer, and summer to autumn. The swallows left us in great swarms, flying toward the equator in search of food for the coming winter. But I stayed on in Virginia, year after year.
Mark? Lady slippers.
Oh, what beauties. And I walked right over them. Ladies' slippers. How appropriate.
Or moccasin flowers. The doctor says the Indians use them to deck their hair.
Elizabeth, I don't know what I'd do without you. You're not only my eyes, you're my teacher. Oh, I never saw a rat so prodigious large.
It's a possum.
An opossum. At last, an opossum. Well, the poor thing is dead.
Oh, it's just plain possum. Beware its teeth.
Get away from that trap! Leave it alone.
But it's an opossum.
Don't care what it is. I caught it. I aims to shoot the head off any varmint that kills my chickens.
You better not try.
Leave it alone!
Aren't you Jed Clary?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, my husband is Dr. Koch. And the next time your wife has the ague, don't come to us.
Beg your pardon, ma'am. How was I to know a lady like you was possum-minded? Well, take the critter and welcome. Better put it in salt water overnight. Hard boil it and roast it with sweet taters. Drain off the fat when it's roasting. It's powerful greasy.
It is fat. At least it's heavy. Oh, perhaps it's going to have young. My sister Elizabeth grudgingly allocated a corner of her garden to my pestiferous darlings, as she called them. but I thought I noticed a change coming over Elizabeth.
Warm. Every year when the humid weather returns, I think that surely it has never been so warm before. And I'm sure it has been. Do you suppose it is because the mind always tries to forget the previous discomforts of the body?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Elizabeth tells me you're finding a great many interesting specimens.
Yeah, I am. Yesterday I found a bead snake,
Oh.
elegantly spotted. Bright reds and yellows, you know. A large one. But I managed to preserve it
Preserve it?
in a jar. It took a quart of rum. Elizabeth is afraid I'm drinking in secret. Would you like to see it?
Oh, no. No, thank you.
I have something you would like. All right.
But it's only a baby Papa. Well, let her go. And good riddance.
I've come to say goodbye.
Oh? Where are you off to now?
England.
You belong in Virginia.
I've received word if I go back to England now, the Royal Society may sponsor a book on your natural history.
Write it then. And come back here and settle down.
You sound like my sister.
She's been after me, too, but I'll never marry again. By the same token, my friends mean the world to me. Those who know gardening are doubly dear.
We'll exchange plants if you like.
I would indeed.
Have these ever flowered?
Not yet. You sure that the color was pink?
Certain. As pink as a cabbage rose.
The common dogwood in decay might have a reddish color.
Is a red-headed man decayed? I tell you, they were pink.
Well, then I hope they'll blossom. It would be a rarity.
A rarity indeed. The parent tree is dead. These may be the only two in existence.
And you brought them to me. Well, now, I take that very kindly. Very kindly indeed.
Daniel! Daniel, Pop, come here! Son, you hear me? Daniel!
Daniel, how could you do a discourteous thing like that?
The target was provocative. I should take this back to England and plant the seeds in my garden and send you some horse chestnuts in return. Your father will tell you that the best thing anybody can do with seeds is to plant them.
If Mr. Sherrard and Sir Hans Sloane and all those other gentlemen from the Royal Society are going to send you right back to America, why do you have to go?
I shall have to consult with them in person and show them these.
Well, I shall be counting the weeks until you return.
I'm afraid any further exploring will be done in Carolina or Florida and the Bahama Islands.
Oh, Mark, no. Please come back to us.
If I can.
Redbirds.
Yes. In England, we call them Virginia nightingales.
Now, where will you find anything more beautiful?
I'll never forget Virginia. Nor my long-suffering sister.
You're mistaken, Mark. You opened my eyes. I learned to love our trips through the fields and the woods. If there's anything you want, a bird or creature or flower, write to me for it. Well, I don't suppose you'll ever get married now, but please try to take care of yourself and send me your book when it's done.
"26 years went by before the book was completed. I was living in Fulham then, on the outskirts of London. Without a family of my own, I'd long depended upon the encouragement of fellow members of the Royal Society and my dear friend, Mrs. Rowland. There is the end of volume 2, my dear Mrs. Rowland.
All of it?
Every last book. 156 sets, you know.
But you'll have more printed, won't you?
I will not. 34,000 plates, with the little help I had, are quite enough to color in one lifetime.
What will you do now?
Well, I'm thinking of moving into London. Perhaps I'll get married. There's a nice little house in Old Street, just behind St. Luke's Church. Would be very comfortable for us.
Are you sure you're old enough to know your own mind?
Well, I'm only 64.
That should be just about right.
You can't imagine how pleased Elizabeth will be. I wish you could meet her. I'd love to show you the view from my window in Williamsburg.
End of take.